taste of what serious quality can do, even at a low price. So I'm going to be talking to you about some myths and some truths at first, and then we're going to get into anatomy of speakers. We're going to get into nothing too technical. I don't want Sevi to have to like school me right in the middle of my presentation, but we are going to go into some of the more interesting things about how things sound and why they sound that way. So for example, something we'll look into is comparing different driver types and why one sounds one way over another. So unless we're messing with the lights, I'm going to start. This is my own personal quote. I came up with it while I was writing the slides. I think it's great. And the gist of it is, audiophiles sometimes listen to the speakers, and music lovers will mostly listen to the actual sound coming out of the speakers. I personally like to consider myself the second part, where I actually use the music to listen to the speakers a good portion of the time, if not almost all of the time. And by the end of the talk, I will hopefully convince you of that. So a couple of myths to get us started. A lot of people have these preconceived notions about what you hear the word audiophile, you think of expensive, you think of elitist, you think of asshole. Well, hopefully I'm only one or two of those things. And let's just go through my list here. So this is a couple I thought of. If you have, after I finish my list, I'm gonna actually open it up to you guys for a second to just, if you have any, throw them at me and I'll tell you whether they're true or not. So, getting good sounding audio equipment is expensive. So, some of the things on the table are very expensive, and some of the things on the table are extremely inexpensive. And I'm not going to tell you which ones are which. You might be able to guess just based on how I pack them or how big they are, that stuff. But for the most part, you can get great audio and great audio quality at a great price, and you don't even necessarily have to go bargain. Okay, expensive cables sound better. This one, if you're not into speakers in any way, I'll give you a little bit of backdrop. So, cables are obviously made out of conductor. There are better conductors, there are worse conductors. Most cables are made out of copper or aluminum that's been clad in copper. And in general, you want the copper. Get rid of the aluminum. It will degrade your ability to carry the full transparent sound, and I'll explain what that means in a little while, from the source to the actual speaker system, whatever that may be. Other than that, you don't have to go spending hundreds of dollars on monster cables. It doesn't matter what your dad told you or what the Radio Shack salesman told you. You pretty much just want oxygen-free copper cables, and you're good. You can get 50 feet or 100 feet of that for $10 to $20. It's nothing. And we're talking big gauge here. You don't even have to spend a ton of money. Some people go out and buy AudioQuest cables claiming that they have this crazy magic effect where they carry the signal better because of electromagnetic fields, and maybe there's some truth to that, but you certainly don't have to care about it for 99.9% of setups. All headphones and speakers sound the same. I know a lot of you, looking at YouTube, who will just be like, it's fine. Except Jordan recently made a good purchase. I approved it. But Sevi, you and your $5 headphones. I'm going to show you today, hopefully, that not all headphones sound the same. I brought a very good selection of what I listen to on the regular and some things I borrowed. So you guys might have heard these before. These are my personal items that I use when I walk around the class, portable, stuff like that. These are very airy and open. You can see how the speaker driver is right there. And these are very closed, and you're going to hear the difference, hopefully, when you try them on. So not all headphones and speakers sound the same, I promise. And we're going to get into some of the cool graphs and different things that show you the differences between headphones in a scientific manner, more than just actually showing you, here's what this sounds like, here's what that sounds like. Here's the switch to make them sound one way or another. So another myth is that flatter is always better. So a lot of people who get super elitist about this stuff are like, well, you have to have the flattest response. Otherwise, you're not going to be hearing exactly what you're supposed to be hearing. But if you read my quote at all, you know that I don't necessarily care about what's going on in the recording itself. I care about listening to it, I care about enjoying it. And you don't need a flat frequency response, which we're also going to get into, in order to actually enjoy music. For example, these headphones right here are all about vocals. They put the vocals in front of everything else, and they do that by isolating a specific part of the different frequencies that the headphones put out and giving it more amplitude as far as output measured goes for the vocal range. And it takes things like the bass line, it takes things like the high treble, the hi-hats you might hear, and it moves them into the background of what you're listening to. And opposite, these are super mid-heavy, these are mid-heaven, that's what people like to say about them. The highs are a little recessed, the bass is good, but still a little recessed, and the mids are super textured in front. So that means things like a lot of drums that you'll hear, your drum kits, will sound exactly like they're being hit, and you can hear every texture, you can hear, like, you can essentially hear the angle the drummer hit the drum at, and stuff like that. So the last two go together. I consider sound and listening to sound to have two distinct and easily identifiable categories: signature and detail. Headphones will often have a great signature that I really like, and signature has to do with how something sounds, like when I was talking about the vocals being in front of everything. And you know, if something sounds like you put it on and it's just all bass, that's signature. But if you put it on and it sounds kind of distorted, or maybe you simply can't hear the reverb in the background going on, that's a lack of detail. So those two things, you can have one that's completely independent of the other, and they work completely separately. I've put on headphones where I'm like, oh my god, the detail on these is amazing, but it sounds like I'm listening to this in a tunnel. So it's not all about either one, it's all about compromise and finding out what you want. Some things that are true: a discrete DAC, which is a digital to analog converter, we're going to talk about those, or amplifier, is going to sound better than your computer or phone could ever possibly make, I promise you. I brought one along with me, that's the one I use on my desktop setup, and it's going to be powering all three of our amplifiers. And hopefully you'll believe me by the end that there's a lot more detail that can be captured by a discrete DAC than what can be captured by your phone, simply because of quality of the part, and then also interference of other things going on inside of the same casing, or inside of the same circuit board a lot of the time. If you've ever plugged in your headphones directly into your computer and heard a hum, it's probably your video card or something of the like, messing with everything else inside the computer, especially the sound, which is very sensitive. Let's see. The most important part of your setup is always the speakers, or I say the drivers here. If you're going to spend $1,000 on an audio setup, you're going to spend like $500 or more on speakers, and take whatever you have left and put it into your DAC and your amplification. For example here, my go-to setup, I don't want to tell you precisely after you listen, but like the speakers are generally worth more. So the speakers, I'll talk about speakers that I don't have here. Speakers at home, it's like $350 to $400 on the drivers. That kind of gives you an idea of the quality. And like I said before, price isn't everything, but in general, you bang for your buck. $400 on speakers is going to put you around like maybe $200 for amplification, and then for the source you want to spend maybe $200. You don't want to spend $1,000 on an amazing DAC, $1,000 on an amp, and then $20, $100, $200 on speakers. You're going to be wasting your money. The biggest change is in the speakers, it's in the drivers, and you're going to notice when you switch between the different sources there that they're almost identical. Let's see. There's a significant subjective element to audio. So all of these things I've been talking about, you, Adam, will like something different than James, and James will like something different than Ron. And that's all okay, perfectly fine. Maybe you're a huge bass head, and all you want to hear is like, you want to put that bass in the front. And then James is like, well, I like bass, but I really want to hear those hi-hats, ting. And you're maybe an all-around person, and the more important thing to you is the sound signature, just being the vocals in the front. The detail isn't that important. That's okay. There are headphones for all of you. the other note, there is such thing as bad equipment. You can buy bad headphones. If you buy $5 headphones, they're going to be crap. I'm sorry. But there are some $26 headphones that are actually really great. So there is such thing as bad equipment, but there's no such thing as, something that's bad just because you don't like it. So here's some things that are objective about sound and about audio. Sound signature, we've been talking about that a lot. Detail, clarity, which is just sort of another word for detail, to be honest. Separation, which is the ability to actually hear one thing at the same time as hearing another thing. And then soundstage, distortion, and noise. We're going to define a couple of these later on. Subjective parts are you. That's your ears, your brain, mostly your brain, sometimes your ear. So here's some other terminology. Things I'm saying not making sense, raise your hand. Tell me what I just said that doesn't make any sense. I will try to define it. So as we're going, just feel free to tell me to stop and define a term real quick, because there's a lot of jargon here. Just like when you're getting into programming or you're getting into bioengineering, you're going to have a lot of different terms that are coming at you. So some things I haven't defined yet. Soundstage, that is basically and it's weird to think about, but the shape of the sound. So a soundstage in this room is very echoey, boomy. It might sound like I'm over here and over there, different things like that. Like, where is my voice even coming from? Because of this, what is literally a stage of sound, where the sound is bouncing around in this environment, you're going to hear it in real life in a different way than you would in the hallway, or if we were in a well-furnished room with lots of couches. And the same thing happens with speakers. Not only due to the housing, but also with materials, drivers, and stuff like that. Let's see. Detail is self-explanatory. Coloration is simply how a speaker, or I should say how a system part, whether that's amplification, or something like a driver, changes the music from what it was originally recorded.